I suppose it would diminish our status as the reserve currency. It's also possible to have more than one large reserve currency, and there have been times when that was the case. And
do you believe that there can be two existing world reserve currencies to simultaneously exist?
I do, and I think that could happen. I think it's quite realistic that a lot of the world is just done with the dollar as their reserve currency. And I think that there's a lot of places that are willing to try something else. And one of my scenarios, and I don't think it's going to play out quickly, but like one of my wild case success scenarios for a digital asset is if countries start to realize that the US dollar is not going to be the reserve currency forever. Other things are going to be the reserve currency. And the same thing that we saw with banks. Like people, when we started selling software to banks, people would say to me, why would a bank use something that like you guys were selling them when they could use something that was like made by banks? And what they didn't realize is that, only like 10 banks in the country, on the planet, are Deutsche Bank, HSBC, Credit Suisse, JP Morgan Chase, like the ones who would build a system that the entire planet would run on. For the rest of the banks, that's 6,000 smaller banks, those are their biggest, strongest competitors. Those are the entities they hate the most. They would not want to use the system built and maintained by them because it's going to be biased in favor of them, their biggest and strongest competitors. And I think the same thing could happen to nations. Like every nation would love for their currency to be the world reserve currency. That's helped the US, that's grown the US economy, quote unquote, unfairly by leaps and bounds for decades. And every other country would be like, yeah, we'd like to have the world be the world's reserve currency. But the only countries that could possibly pull it off is the US holding its position, maybe the EU, maybe Russia, maybe one or two others. But realistically, most countries know that if there's going to be a new world reserve currency that's a country's currency, it's not going to be them. And so they might actually prefer a currency that nobody can control to one that's controlled by their largest geopolitical rivals. And so that's like what I think is the biggest possible success scenario for digital assets. If these countries are like, okay, well, the US dollar can't hold on forever, but it's not going to be our currency because no one's going to want to repeat the US dollar scenario. Nobody but the EU wants the EU to replace the dollar, right? Nobody but Russia wants the ruble to replace the dollar. Nobody but China wants the yuan to replace the dollar. So maybe they could settle on a currency that nobody could control rather than one controlled by their most powerful geopolitical rival. So if you want a success scenario, that's the one that I think is the most likely.
But the money question is, how do you get everybody to agree?
Well, I mean, they might agree if the alternative is that their geopolitical rivals force some new replacement for the dollar that's not, if they just replace, the old boss with a new boss. If the choice is no boss, if that happens to make a bunch of cryptocurrency people rich, I don't think they're going to see that as too much of a minus.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Support this great content by hitting the Cash App and by joining the Patreon.
And guys, we have Ripple's David Schwartz talking about two world reserve currencies. And don't forget, Jerome Powell stated we've had it in the past. And we know it's coming again. What happens in the past always comes back to the future. And like I tell you, the dollar is not going anywhere. But it's definitely going to lose the power it had before. And we're going to see the rise of China digital yuan backed by that digital SDR being used in the Belt and Road. And guys, we see the rise of the BRICS nations. And we're definitely witnessing the fall of America to Babylon. Like David Schwartz stated, countries are tired of the United States dollar. And we know it's been used as a stick around the globe. If you don't do like we say, then we're going to cut your economy totally off. But what no one talks about in the mainstream media is why. And guys, we know the reason why is the fourth industrial revolution. The rise of the robots, algorithms, and drones are going to be using the crypto to run the economy while the sheep go inside the metaverse. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you. And guys, we have Kevin O'Leary saying that pain is going to start this month for the United States economy and the small and medium-sized banks. and we know he's telling the truth, but he doesn't give the reason why. And guys, that's the digital transformation. We know this legacy market has to be destroyed. And we see the big banks, big corporations getting the benefit of all these trillions of dollars that Congress is approving, and we seeing small business fall by the wayside. And guys, I warned you about this when I first started. Small businesses make the United States run, so if you want to destroy the United States, you destroy small business. And by keeping rates higher for longer, the banks can no longer lend to these small businesses, and we know what the small businesses are left to do. Either lay off or shut down. And we're seeing a lot of small businesses shut down, at least where I'm at. I'm talking about companies that have been around for 20, 40, 50, even 100 years shut down. And you used to see the community come together to make sure that doesn't happen. But guys, we know communities are long gone. And we know for a fact the local government and even the main government are not coming to their rescue. And they also know it. So guys, next year we're going to see unemployment continue to rise. And then on top of it, we're going to see the housing crash start to happen. And we see a lot of these big banks buying up single family houses left and right. But remember guys, this is part of a plan. It moves in phases. And remember, the crypto teacher told you, because he knows when it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
Now is saying that September, which starts tomorrow, will be the start of real chaos for the U.S. economy and hurt the little guy. Let's bring in Kevin O'Leary. He's joining us now. Kevin, in what respect is this new influx of money from the president's program that passed a couple of years ago going to not help the little guy?
Well, let's think about it. We've got the Chips and Science Act. Where's that money going? Behemoth giant companies in the S&P 500. The Inflation Reduction Act, another $1 trillion, not even printed yet, all going to the big guys. Now, that's great. They represent 40% of the jobs in America, the S&P 500. Everybody knows the S&P 500. It's the biggest index in the world. But 60% of America is small business. That's where 60% of the jobs come from. We've given nothing to them. And so they're struggling because the Fed has raised rates up to 5.5% in a matter of months.
To stop inflation, theoretically.
Right. And yet we still have full employment, under 4% unemployment. So the small guy, the business between 5 and 500 employees, he's been cut off at the regional bank level. They're not lending. The loan books closed down. The rates that he pays for money have gone from 4 to 5% to 11 to 17. And we're not talking about them. But you're going to hear a lot of people crying about this in the next few months because they can't borrow anything anymore and they can't run their businesses.
So when we saw those regional bank failures last year, this is the ramifications. More regulation. And when you have more regulation, you need more liquidity to meet those demands, which means more banks say, I can't lend or I can't function.
Yeah, we have 4,100 regional banks in America. Probably in the next 3 years, we'll be down to 2,000. They're going to consolidate. During that period, people are very nervous about putting their money in the bank because if another one fails and you have your cash in there, right now you're only guaranteed for $250,000. There's an idea that came out of Senator Haggerty that said, let's just do one payroll account, guarantee that, pay no interest on it, so at least a small business during this consolidation period.
You like this?
I like that plan. I met with his staff. On him, it made sense to me. I would endorse that. The other thing I would do for small business is extend the employee retention credit. That's the deal where companies that invested in their employees during the pandemic are getting to take back a grant for that. But it's really for small business, companies with 5 to 500. It's the only active program I know of that supports small business. Meanwhile, we're going to write $2 trillion to the big guys. That in itself is inflation. But it seems unfair to me to support a behemoth company that has a lot of its employees outside of America and not my companies, small business. I've worked in small business. And I'm asking myself, what are we doing for them? The 60% of jobs in America. Let's wake up, smell the roses, realize they're under tremendous pressure, and they are our economy.
We always focus on real estate when it comes to the rates, but you're saying it's business. If you can't get a loan, you can't get some money. You're not going to expand or you're not going to stay in business, and that's going to ripple.
That's the problem because let's say you're selling Walmart. You sell $1 million worth of products to Walmart, and they're going to pay you in 60 to 90 days. Normally, you'd go to your bank and say, look, I need a receivable. I need to finance that receivable so I can buy more product and sell more product. And now the banks are saying, I'm sorry, because of the collapse of these small regional banks like Silicon Valley, the regulator's telling us we have to be more liquid. We can't loan you anything.
It's going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China. But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is, it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of a huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we can have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Cryptoteacher and the New World Order book, plus the 3 Kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get home stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing they were still getting that free money, what are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, So therefore, we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the fourth industrial revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York. From COVID Stories 3. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.